Thanks very much. I thought this was incredibly educational. We have tried to capture some of the donor best practices on institutionalizing resilience. We didn't get all of them, but have a couple of paper copies if you'd like to look at it, and we'll update it and put it on the web so people can sort of see, and we can have some of maybe this donor learning across different donors and what everyone's working on. I wanted to follow up with just a couple quick questions and hand it back to Tim, but coming off your very good setup of different challenges, be interested to hear what the rest of the panelists think are ways to help get past the silos of excellence we have in your WASH sectors, your humanitarian, your development, and really creating that culture of resilience within the bureaucracy. And what incentives do we need to be able to actually make those differences in the bureaucracy so that it's not so personality based? In some of our literature review, we were looking at the different strategies of the different donors, and I have to give a shout out to USAID for explicitly calling out gender and their theory of change on resilience. We'd be interested to hear in what others are doing to make sure that gender is incorporated in the broader resilience strategies. And then lastly, for those of us in this morning's panel, we had quite a discussion on how to fund resilience, and since we have our donors here, we're hoping to get thoughts on if it's important to have standalone resilience programming or pots of money that maybe worked with host national governments to do resilience strategies or what have you, or should we be integrating resilience across all of our programming per Tim's slide that shows all those different pots of money? But what is the most effective way of getting past, Greg's good slide on getting past all the different stovepipes of funding, but what's the most effective way to be funding resilience? And should we be pushing for a broader standalone pots of money, or just for including resilience and seeing it resilience in every single program across the board? And again, thank you so much.
Okay, who wants to take the first shot? Tim?
1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Thank you, Tim. I was hiding. Do you want me to answer all three, or just sort of take ones that I feel? Well, okay. Getting past the silos and sectors in bureaucracy, I think there's a few things going on. I mean, within DFID, we've got a executive management committee process called Future Fit, which is about making DFID fit for the future. And it's mainly been around climate change. So 20 years from now, what do we expect? 40 years from now, what do we expect? But we're also bringing in sort of natural resource scarcity into it. We're pulling in urbanization to try and change how the institution will be working and looking. And I won't say as a government department that we're going to sort of completely restructure all our different systems, but going through that process has actually brought the climate change and Chase, my department, which has been doing the disaster resilience stuff, to actually add value to what we started doing and taking the disaster resilience into more of a sort of climate resilience. So we're actually coming together with that, and within that process there are different sectors. So there's food and agriculture, there's energy, there's cities, and there's another one which is water. And so we've got these 5 pillars, and resilience ends up as a pillar, which is kind of getting away from the silo thing, but we're cross-cutting it across into the different things. So all of those different 4 areas are looking at the building resilience, looking at climate, looking at sort of energy, resource scarcity, and pulling that together. I still think it's a challenge, and I don't think we're there yet. And up until now, it has been very much around personal networks and who you know. And from my background, I've been around the organisation on sort of, food security, done a bit on climate, disaster risk reduction, and that's kind of how it's been working, I think. I can talk to the other ones, but I don't want to.
No, that's somebody else.
Yeah.
Can I say? Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, I do want to maybe be as honest as Colum in terms of the reliance on champions. We have gone to some great lengths in setting up these joint planning cells for the Horn and the Sahel. We have set up institutionally in Washington an attempt to bring together and sustain this joint cross-bureau effort on resilience, but it's still largely built on champions. And there's a lot of us who are acutely aware that champions move. And so we do feel a vulnerability in relation to that in terms of sustaining it. Now, where it's launched and grabbed, sort of really has a foothold in places like Ethiopia, which actually predates our sort of latest interest in resilience. Things are well on the way. Things are institutionally, it's built into the way that the Ethiopia USAID mission looks at Ethiopia. But in other countries, it is a new concept, and we, like many organizations, have a rotational scheme with our staff, which means finally that breakthrough moment of bringing everybody together for joint analysis, joint problem definition, unpacking of the problem, strategy development and planning, and then they're on to the next post, and a new crew comes in. So it has been doable in the sort of analytic and planning stage. It has been much harder to sustain in the implementation phase. So that's where we're at right now, is the recognition of this sort of built on champions. And I think, to Sunday's point, champions are pretty darn important, but how do we actually change the incentives within USAID? And we've actually had a series of internal high-level meetings looking at how do we sustain that. And the trouble is, so where do you put resilience in USAID? If you put it in a bureau, you kill the idea. I mean, I think to the funding stream idea, if there is a standalone funding stream, it almost lets other people off the hook. And so I think we do have multiple funding streams coming together to support this effort. I think we are at the stage of sort of proof of concept of that, and that we really need to show some value for that, not only a collective value, but a value to each of those interest groups. So.
There's just 2 points I wanted to make, kind of relating the first question, ways to help get past the silos, and then maybe the last one, which is how to fund resilience. And I don't dare touch the bureaucratic constraints that many institutions face, and we have our own as well. But I do think that the idea of having cycles of innovation around resilience is really an important concept for these multidisciplinary teams to come together to do the problem definition and analysis and all of that. But how can we sustain that, which is in part kind of finding things that work and showing people, demonstrating to folks how that kind of having this problem analysis, investing in an approach, and investing in programs that actually cut across different silos actually serves to ameliorate conditions for people. And obviously it takes some time, but I think people need evidence. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. We need to have evidence that it actually works to allow people to really feel that they want to buy in to this as in part of an incentive. But in terms of funding it, there are lots of issues around challenges and prizes and all that, but having a certain pot of funding that will allow for that more creative thinking around different problem spaces, I think helps to spur some of the new programming that we all really want to see. And being able to do that not at headquarters level, but being able to do that in the regions, I think is really important. And I know I'm not picking on AID in particular or any other institution, because we all face this headquarter field kind of point of view, but really getting that buy-in from colleagues in the field and arming them with the funding resources that's required to allow them to have that sustained engagement around these questions, I think will be really important for resilience to sustain over the years.
Yeah, maybe I can just say one or two things. I mean, mostly I think it's been said, but I was actually sitting in my office in Echo the other day, and I heard somebody say, God, when is this resilience stuff going to go away so we can get on with some real work? Okay, so we really do have a challenge within our organisations, I think. There's some, within Echo, if I can continue to be honest, there are some pretty hardcore humanitarians out there who want to go in there and do the emergency work and get out again, not have anything to do with the longer term impact. But there's an awful lot of other people who do get it, and they understand it, that we're talking about, better use of scarce resources. So it's a challenge, and how do you actually, maybe we should be looking at over time changing competencies in our organisations. I think that's maybe something that needs to be done, and that doesn't necessarily mean firing half the staff and getting new ones in. I mean, there's training, building capacity within. I don't know. I think that might be important. I think the other thing that just strikes me
is, you know, it's relatively easy to put, you know, get all this stuff down on paper, like I was saying, with policies and various other things. It's a different thing to get it working on the ground. And I think another challenge is, you know, people, we've got a marker that we're putting into our single form, which for the you people who have to fill in that thing, you'll be coming up against. But it's looking at trying to get people to think through what does resilience actually mean, and it also helps ECHO to track, you know, whether we're doing resilience or not. But in that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, trying to look at what are we doing differently, what is different about this project in a resilience lens, if you like. Are we doing business differently, or are we just putting old wine into new bottles? And I think that's another real challenge for us to actually look at it's not just about, you know, calling something resilience, it's about really doing, you know, business differently. And I don't really know how we do that, but maybe
I
to
find it
encourage
interesting
it.
that nobody addressed the gender
I
question.
was just thinking the same thing.
I believe I was given a pass.
I can say two quick things from DFID's view. I think that we have been, I think in the excitement around resilience, I think gender, you know, we were trying to mainstream big policy areas, and I don't think gender has been adequately addressed. Our Secretary of State has got a big push. Her 3 priorities are resilience, violence against women and girls, and economic growth. And we have been incorporating the women's and girls, and I think women's and kids sort of agenda into that. And our BRACE programme, which I haven't had time to talk to, which is a hell of an acronym, Building Resilience and Climate Adaptation in Extreme Disasters. And it's been a big sort of consortium push in Sahel. I mean, it's a great acronym, but nobody knows what it means. But you know, basically, it's about disasters, it's about climate change, and it's about building resilience. And a main focus has been the Sahel. And when we put out our sort of calls for proposals, there was a major focus there on, you know, we had to, you know, the consortium bidders had to really articulate, you know, where the gender, where the women and girls, you know, part of it came in. And I think it was almost to disaggregated data and targeting as well. So I think it has slipped, and I think we're playing catch up a bit.
So I will actually speak to that, because I think, you know, the same sort of challenge with embedding gender in all we do. I think we're actually institutionally trying to learn from that experience. Do you create an office? Do you make coordinators? You know, so we're trying to even sort of learn from that experience, which has been going on for some time, how we might approach resilience. But in terms of gender in our resilience work, I actually think it was extremely heartening to see that when we brought a very diverse group of humanitarian and development people within USA together from different sectoral backgrounds and looked at this problem of underlying causes of vulnerability and recurrent crisis, the gender question almost answered itself in terms of how clear it was that needed to be addressed in relation to malnutrition, in relation to livelihoods, in relation to migration and splitting of the household. The clarity around gender when we did this analysis actually was far more obvious than when we sort of took these narrow sectoral analysis. But I do want to tack on to that the real challenge here, and it talks about staff capacities and how do we build a cadre of people who are actually able to see the forest. And I think the challenge, you know, we bring these you know, water people, nutrition, conflict, governance, gender, food security together. Again, a beautiful analysis, a beautiful unpacking of the problem. Everybody's on the right page, and then the water guy grabs you on the shoulder and goes, yeah, but it's really about water. So I think there's going to be a degree to that, and actually having people advocating that we take each part of this complex analysis seriously is important. But we do need a cadre of people who begin to see how all these pieces fit together. And I think it's a process of, I agree, it's not hiring in, it's building capacity of staff and also identifying people who have these skills that may not be fully utilized.
Yeah.
So I'm the only woman on here, so I guess I have to say something about it. Perhaps not, but I really appreciate others commenting on it. I guess from our perspective, I mean, it's really a sad oversight, right? When you think about, for resilience, the questions of agency and aspiration and hope are so fundamental to resilience concepts. And for us to be looking at that in terms of differentiated impacts of the system on men and women. I mean, there's really no excuse for not having more of a focus on that. And I was really appreciative of, I think it was Mercy Corps, and maybe Tango, you helped with this, the Somalia case study, where there was a clear focus. One of the findings that came out of that was around women in the household and their decision-making rights and those kinds of things, and to what extent that helped them to become more resilient. But, I think it's just, part of it is, it's more than just data collection. I think it's really, if we truly have a grounded understanding of what resilience is for individuals and communities, then that shouldn't be an oversight for us. It shouldn't be something that's left out, given those key aspects of it. And so I guess it's just a call for all of us to be looking at those issues more carefully.
Yeah.